Hello and welcome back to The Hex with Daniel Robertson, John Arnold, Armand Kafai. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on the post. Subscribe to us if you are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or listening on Substack, which you probably subscribe to us already if you're listening on Substack. But guys, one thing I wanted to do, by the way, is I never plug at the start of the show anyone who's finding us maybe on YouTube that is not familiar with our work. John, where can they find your work first off?
Well, if you're on YouTube, click on over to John Arnold FC, or you can find me on Substack as well. Get concacaf.substack.com.
We will link to it in the first comment. And Armand, where can they find your content?
You can find my content I have a blog on Substack called Footy Analytic Musings. We'll link it, I guess, below or whatever you're going to link it at, where we talk about MLS salary cap stuff. And some of my work pops up on Backheeled as well, too, as we analyze the MLS season. And I think it's only two places. I feel like there's a third, but I don't think so.
American Soccer Analytics.
Oh, yeah, American Soccer Analysis, that's true.
Like last week.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we had two articles out last week with my friend Sebastian Bush and Jamin Moore, so... I don't post in there often, but I occasionally pop in random places. So be sure to give that some love.
So follow random places, and
exactly.
Find Armand somewhere.
You never know.
All right, guys, we got 6 topics. This is the Hex. Let's get into it. Guys, it's been 2 weeks since we had a show. Last week I was moving, as you can tell. I'm trying to get my background leveled up to John over here, but that may take me. I need to get some plants, and maybe I'll take that clock back, John, actually, that I gave you about 10 years ago, which I found in the Dallas Cup offices, like in the annals of the old Dallas Cup offices, like 10 years ago. But anyways, guys, it has been...
I don't think you were in the annals. I think you were in a different part.
I was in the basement of their old office. But yeah. So this week, there's been a lot that's happened over the past couple weeks. And we're going to start off with our MLS winners of the week, as we like to do. And Armand, why don't you kick us off this week?
Daniel, I came to my winner of the week with a straight face. It's Sporting Kansas City, because Sunday Night Soccer is supposed to be like a celebration of, beautiful soccer. We had two of the worst teams in Western Conference play.
I don't think I've ever said that. I don't think I've ever said this is a celebration.
Well, it's implied, right? Soccer. It's Sunday Night Soccer. It should be. And instead, we saw MLS history. And, it was a really, cool moment. I know we saw 2 Game 7s in, NHL where, there was real history, amazing games. No, guys, we saw the first team in MLS history win without recording a shot. Not a shot on goal, a shot.
Yeah, and I like your point in the sense of, we'll talk about their opponent in our next segment, but you look at getting off the mat, and Sporting Kansas City has gotten off the mat. They have a shot to, I know it's silly to talk about 11 games into the season, but they are in the mix for the playoffs. They're not out of it. And that's...
The West is really condensed. If you look at it outside of Vancouver, Minnesota has 19 points. And SKC has 10, so you're sitting there with a 9-point difference. And
tell me this, analytics boy, is that sustainable? Is that good attacking soccer to win without a shot?
It's amazing voodoo magic right there. That's what it is. It's not sustainable at all. It's terrible.
You're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, but at the same time, I'm not sure they can replicate it since it's never been done in the league's 30-year history. But I can totally buy them being your winner of the weekend. But I'm not sure that's the strategy they're going to want to deploy going forward.
And then they beat San Jose. Didn't they put 5 past San Jose a few weeks ago when they didn't deserve it at all? So it's find you a team that can do both, right? Score without getting a shot, or score a lot of goals without many shots. John, you're looking for a guy who's been scoring plenty though recently.
Oh, yeah. Look, talk about a celebration of beautiful soccer. It's Chucky Lozano. I don't think he ever looked like a bad signing when he arrived in San Diego. I think, San Diego did so well, even when he got injured. I was ringing the panic bells a little bit because he does have a long injury history. It's something I actually talked about with some of the club administrators as I wrote a story about how important Lozano was to the club. Hey, he's got injury history. Are you concerned? I said, no, he's durable. So the fact that he comes back from injury relatively quickly, and then this weekend against FC Dallas, not only 2 goals, 1 from the spot, but also setting up Andres Dreyer and just establishing that partnership that we've all been kind of saying, when these 2 guys are healthy at the same time, they're going to be fantastic together. It hadn't really happened like that yet. This weekend, it does. And that's something I do think, unlike winning with 0 shots, is replicable. I think that this is the formula for San Diego long term. It's great that they can win in other ways, and just like we talk about Inter Miami when Messi is injured, or some of the other big time teams in the league without some of their stars, can they still win without them? Can they have a plan B or a plan C? I think San Diego, this needs to be their plan A. It's great if you got B and C, but the way that Chucky Lozano and Drea were able to link up and demolish FC Dallas should be really encouraging to a team that we even talked about last time we recorded. It fell into a little bit of a slump. Chucky's my big winner. Obviously, San Diego by proxy. I think that it looks like this is for real, that they're good, and that he's going to be one of the top 10 players in the league this year.
And for an MLS team, you talked about plan A. Plan A has to be for every MLS team that your stars play well, because there is no way to survive in MLS without plan A working, right? And I've actually, on my channel, which I didn't plug, my D-Row Bets channel, I've bet on Lozano to score the last 2 weeks because obviously he's taking their PKs, but it wasn't just because of that. Is it crazy to think he's in the Mexico national team mix right now?
No, not at all. I mean, look, like I think as you'll probably hear me talk about later this week and on various channels, like I think Obed Vargas might get a Gold Cup call. Well, he won't because of the Club World Cup, but he should. So I don't think that Lozano's out of the picture. The only thing is that, at winger, Mexico does have some options. But no, I think that he has always had the opportunity to play himself back into the Mexico picture in MLS. I think if he hadn't been injured, he might have even been in for the Nations League games in March. So, whatever happened, but I think that this is a guy who's going to be in the L3 picture when you're looking at 2026, especially if he keeps playing like he did this weekend for San Diego.
Yeah, and then I'll stay on the West Coast for my winner of the week, and I'm going with LAFC, guys, because I don't know if this has something to do with Cherundolo's announcement. He's not going to be coach next year. Maybe the players are like, well, shoot, I got to, figure it out for whoever the new guy is. But they are playing like the LAFC of old that we would expect from them, in that at home they're almost impenetrable. They're unbeaten in 4 games. Over the last 3 weeks, LAFC has the most expected goals in the league, and they destroyed the Dynamo last week. It wasn't even close. I watched a lot of the game. Denny Bouanga is playing at the level right now that we all expect him to play at. He had 18 shots in his last 2 games, which is just insane. And they've scored multiple goals in 6 out of the last 7 games. So this is the LAFC we expect. And John, another Gold Cup name to watch potentially, Nathan Ordaz for El Salvador. He finally scored for LAFC this week, and if they can get him going as a center forward, that only makes them better and creates another exciting name to watch in the Gold Cup. So LAFC for me is a team right now on the rise.
Say finally he scored against Inter Miami in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. I mean, yes, that's not the same tournament, but a young guy who honestly sometimes I'm thinking, I don't know if this guy's got it, and then sometimes I'm like, did he make a mistake by accepting the El Salvador call-ups? Because he could be in the U.S. national team picture in a couple of years. Well, no, he can't because he's already with La Selecta. But the consistency there would be fantastic. They need anybody to sort of be consistent. But like you said, maybe they are starting to find that mojo after the disappointment in the international play.
And Armand, is there anything else you're seeing out of LAFC right now that kind of is raising your eyebrow, maybe from an analytical standpoint? I mean, I know they are beating up on some bad teams right now, but sometimes that's what you need to get yourself going.
I mean, that's what they kind of have to do, right? Like, you have to beat up the bad teams in MLS, and MLS is one of those leagues where it's almost kind of like any given Sunday. Like, you see some bad teams beating some good teams. Look, for me, the interesting thing is they're kind of doing this with a couple of their hands tied behind their back, right? Olivier Giroud has been disappointment at DP.
He did.
Under has been okay. It looks like a temporary option. Basically, if you deduce it down to the map, like they basically have one DP and they're kind of getting up to speed. This summer, we're expecting some sort of big move, right? Like, or else we're getting teased for the 15th time, I guess. I don't know if that's going to happen with Griezmann out of the picture. Will it be Thomas Muller? What's going to be that DP that comes into the picture? I feel like we've been, again, like teased like 15 times with these guys. Like, they're going to get this big European star to come in here. It's going to be in their prime, etc. Well, it's not going to be Griezmann. Who's it going to be? And to get these results now is super important, especially before the summer window.
I buy them as a winner, but I don't necessarily buy that everything's okay, that they're getting the results. I mean, they should have lost to Portland. Great game to come back and get a draw. It's the point on the road. You take it. They get only a draw against St. Louis. at home.
Yeah.
Then he needed Dini Bouanga to put on his Superman cape to do that. I think he's been doing that a lot. And I think for me, when you look at what he's been doing this season, it's been really remarkable. Even in a game like this weekend's where he doesn't actually get his name on the score sheet, still so influential, so important, so impactful, so many good shots, so many dangerous plays. You know, a guy like Nathan Ordaz next to him, I think, has so much more confidence and freedom because you know that guy's going to pick up the trash if you leave it out. He's been remarkable for me this year. It's just about those other big names that already are there for me actually showing that they can do it week in, week out. Hey, don't look now. Their next match on the schedule is a trip to league leading Vancouver. You win that one, maybe I'll make you my winner of the weekend, and I would buy this sort of LAFC bell curve. For now, I'm still waiting to see.
Armand, you already talked about it a little bit, but the clear loser of the weekend is the first team in MLS history to lose a game without giving up a shot. And this is in a season of lows for the LA Galaxy. This is about as low as you can get. They have 3 points so far from 11 games this season. And I looked it up last year to make the playoffs, 9th place, in which I don't actually consider the playoffs, but to make the postseason, they had to get to 44 points. They would need to average 1.9 points per game through the rest of the season to get to that spot, which very, very, very unlikely to happen, guys. Armand, what is going on right now with the LA Galaxy disaster class?
John, was it you who said at the beginning of the year that this was your take that the Galaxy wouldn't make the playoffs? Yeah. I think it was you.
He said the play-in.
Did I say that?
You said the play-in.
I don't remember. A good take from me. Honestly, I don't know. I thought they would kind of be okay with Marco Reus.
I mean, great take from you. I mean, in retrospect, so shout out past John. But if you look at the Galaxy, they're a team that basically ran one of the closest things to a heliocentric offense that you'll see in soccer, right? Like soccer is a very team-oriented sport. You have to progress the ball up the field as a team. But Ricky Puig led MLS history according to ASA database, which I think dates back 2013, so maybe not all the way back, but
pretty good though.
Modern MLS, I'd probably say. In touch percentage by their team, it was around like 14.5%. You know who was next on that list? Was Nicolas Lodero with Seattle. And we remember how good he was with Seattle in his peak, in his prime. You can't just have that hole be vacant and then say, we're going to fix it with what? Edwin Cerrillo, your defensive mid? Not necessarily. Would it be Marco Reus? Not necessarily as well, too. They tried Diego Fagundes there as well. They've kind of tried a bunch of things. And keep in mind, guys, like there has been a bit of cap mismanagement by the Galaxy. Look, they have no general allocation money left to spend. They have to dip into 2026 money multiple times to try to get assets for this season.
You can do
that?
They
figured out a way to do it. They figured out a way to do it in the way you can pull forward some 2026 allocation money, but they did one trade which was kind of like, okay, you're kind of skirting the rules a little bit. It was a trade with DC where they traded for 100K allocation money for 125 of next year's allocation money. Like it's the DC great loan sharks. But
yeah, I was going to say, so there's 20 points on the dollar there that they're working on. Okay.
But, well, overall, like you have to make improvements to a team, and they didn't make improvements to the team. The team got worse compared to where they were last year. Now the questions arise with, is Ricky Puig that key of a player that Gabriel Peck is struggling, that Joseph Painter, who's coming off an injury, is struggling? Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if they sold Gabriel Peck in the summer. Like, at this point, the season might not be salvaged. You take an offer. And I know the Galaxy do have the firepower to be, and the money, obviously, to keep all these guys. But if you get a big enough offer for Gabriel Peck 100%. At this point of the season.
100%. And what I was going to say from this game that stood out to me, and I watched some of it and then watched the highlights, is you talk about Gabriel Peck. It seems like the players might be starting to check out a little bit on offense because Gabriel Peck didn't have a shot on Sunday night, and that to me is incredibly
unacceptable. Sporting Kansas City impression,
right? He thought he was playing on Sporting. He was that was a come and get me plea performance from Gabriel Peck. He's had games this year where he's had 5, 6, 7 shots. That to me is completely unacceptable, and that goes beyond any level of coaching to not have a shot. And you thought, look, okay, when Paintsel was out too, it was like, okay, there's no Puig, there's no Paintsel. 2 of the 3 killer P's are out. But now it should not be that big of a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the concerning thing, is that the drop off has been so significant, even as you start to look and you say, well, okay, yeah, some key pieces are gone. Jovic is wearing the other jersey. He's actually playing for the other team. Obviously, Puig is injured. Marky Delgado's gone. But you can go down the list, but at the same time, you look and you say, well, okay, who was the second most important player for the Galaxy last year? I would say Peck.
Yep.
Who's the third most important player?
Paintsel.
You could put Paintsel in there, right? You'd say fourth, let's say it's Marky Delgado. Okay, but fifth, right? Maybe Diego Fagundes, maybe Edwin Cerrillo, right? Those guys are still on this team. And so for it to be such a significant drop-off, where this was the best team in the league last year, winning MLS Cup, putting together a very good regular season, to all of a sudden be as poor as they are right now, I think it is concerning. I don't buy that it's Greg Vanney's fault. I'm not Greg Vanney out. I don't think that many people who make sense are saying that right now. But I do think it's concerning when you look at this team, and I do think you're totally right that it seems like the state of energy, the sort of desire to get out and get points is starting to slip away. That's a sign of a season that might be totally wasted.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Armand. I think that if that's what you decide at this point, you need to go ahead and sell Peck, because you need to rebuild the roster completely. And you need to say, okay, 2025 is a lost season. There's no recovering it. And at this point, Puig isn't going to come back for this season. What is the point to bringing him back for 3 or 4 meaningless games at the end of the year? I don't think that really has any point at all.
Well, they haven't put it on SCI yet. If they put him on a season end, if they put him on the season injury list,
but they didn't know that they would have 3 points from their first 11 games either.
The thing is with Puig, and I mentioned this I think a couple months ago. I don't know if on this pod or a different pod. If you look at Alan Velasco,
look who's on a bunch of pods.
No,
so many. I can't
look at Alan Velasco. Alan Velasco tore his ACL on November 2nd, right? Ricky Puig tore his ACL a month later. Alan Velasco didn't come back till August 31st.
10 months.
That puts again, the Galaxy know their players' health way better than I do. I'm just making a really easy deduction. Like, it's not like I'm doing crazy math here. That would put Ricky Puig's return closer to October. That's 2 games left, and that's the playoffs.
Well, and the other thing is,
if they're even going to make the playoffs, which, I mean, at that point, it's like
no chance. And John, you railed off the players who are there and who are not there. You know who all is there is the defense. And you know who has the most goals given up in the Western Conference? The LA Galaxy. Which defense was never...
It wasn't good last year either, to be fair, but yes.
It wasn't their calling card, but still, yeah, it hasn't been a good season in LA, guys, and it's clearly going to be a lost season. It is promotion relegation season over in Europe. And
season. You could just say season. We're not like abbreviating it.
Season, SZN.
Trying to do the SZN thing.
Yeah,
I know, but this is like...
promotion relegation time. And over in England, it was a fascinating weekend where we saw Leeds United and Burnley. Obviously, they had already been promoted, but Leeds United and Burnley promoted from the Championship. And in League One, Wrexham and Birmingham City were promoted. And they're still American-owned. Leyton Orient with a chance of getting promoted in League One. But both automatic promotion spots in the lower leagues have American ownership. And it is very interesting to compare the two. If you are an American, do you want to buy into a lower league English team, or would you rather buy an MLS team? And John, you're an American. Would you rather buy a lower league English team or an MLS team?
I'm going to pass, and I'm gonna buy
a Liga MX team
in Latin America. I think that's where things are going. The market is oversaturated in Europe, and even past England, you're already seeing there's a lot of Americans who own French teams, even some in the second division. There's a lot of Americans who own teams in other countries. I think that the market is going to shift to Latin America. I think Liga MX is a huge opportunity. Big rumors that I believe that Querétaro might be sold from Grupo Caliente, who own a bunch of teams that are all bad somehow. Querétaro might be sold to an American-led investment group. We already know about the American backing of Necaxa. I think that's the trend to watch for the future. But right now, in the present, if I had to pick one or the other, I mean, there's clear pros, cons, right? I think, from a business perspective, you can sort of see both cases. I do think that it depends on the club. It depends on the situation. If you come into like the Reading situation right now, where like Dai Young, the Chinese owner, is like a total walk away. No one even knows where the guy is. And American is going to come in and save that club and be a hero. I forget the gentleman's name, but like he bought Wickham a couple years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. So, I think that would be a good situation. Basically, I guess I want to be loved. Well, so if I could bring an MLS expansion team to like a desperately start, like if I could put the team in Sacramento, maybe I would do that. Although I don't really have any ties to Sacramento, so I don't know. Maybe I'm weaseling out. I guess if you gun to head, I'd be surprised because that's out of character for you. But I think I might do the English team just because of the charm and the small town, and I get to make my own documentary about it too. And I'm making a there was a documentary about MLS as a whole, but not about one club. So, give me a welcome to Wrexham moment, I guess.
I think that's where I'm going to. I'm on the same page as you because, it's funny to look at. I was thinking about this earlier today. Americans are experts at finding distressed assets and basically sucking the joy out of them to make a lot of money. And it feels like what is happening. Not necessarily sucking the joy out of them, but Americans are finding these distressed assets in England and raising them up. The tricky situation is now that we're going to see, and I'm surprisingly, I don't think any of us really watch the Wrexham show, which you would think that being big soccer fans, none of us really watch it, but it's going to be very interesting to see now, are they able to keep the money that it takes to be competitive between League One and the
Championship's a different ballgame, man. Championship's a different ballgame.
Insanely different.
I said on the kick around this week that, Leeds, when you are getting promoted in the championship, you're buying players who start for their national teams, or at least are contenders for their national teams. That is the level at the top of the championship. Contributors to their national teams, somewhere around there. Hey, Weston McKennie was on. Well, I guess he was on the team when they got relegated, but
when they were Premier League,
still.
But it's a different ballgame. You're totally right.
Totally different ball game, but again, I want to be loved too, and I feel like there is something to be said for the adulation of the fans. Whereas I saw like Austin FC fans are already like grumbling and complaining about the season when they're 3 points out of second place. Like, what do you want there? So for me, it's the lower leagues.
Damn, heartbreaking. I think we're all going to agree. Heartbreaking. What makes for great content, right?
Man, who would have thought that we're the Euro snobs now?
Yeah.
But it also costs a lot of money to buy into MLS. You're looking at like $600 million now.
We're not doing either one.
Are we talking like MLS expansion team? Is that what we're talking about?
Whatever you want, man.
Man, I'd totally buy FC Dallas if I could then.
Good luck with that.
That's now you say it like that. If it came down to, if it was an expansion versus Euro,
stadium renovation.
I was going to make a distressed asset joke, but
I moved that baby right to Dallas. I mean, look, when it comes to expansion, I don't think really it's a question, because expansion teams with MLS, like you said, Daniel, are approaching like what, $500, $600, $700 million, and you can get the charm, the history, the pageantry of a European side. There's a lot more risk. 100%. Your team could get relegated. There could be financial issues. You're probably going to lose money for a long, long time before you actually become profitable. But there's just, there's something different about like the European football and stuff. Like my friend Dan Crook, he's a Luton Town fan. He saw Luton come from a non-league team to the Premier League. Unfortunately, they're back down to League One. But it's stories like that where it's like you follow this team all throughout. Like when it comes to an MLS expansion side, you can build your own history, but
that's the thing, is like we're talking around two things. One is like buying into something with an established history versus creating your own, which has its own allure and which has its cool things. And we all think that MLS has history, that there are cool traditions in MLS, even though it was relatively recently born. The other thing is like, and this is going to be a surprising take, I think, coming from like, I've loved MLS since it was born, but in a closed system where you don't have promotion and relegation, like there is less sort of romanticism, and also that you're buying into something where the price is going to be fixed, right? Like it is going to be expensive if you bought an MLS.
Also, team. John, like as weird as it sounds, like MLS just feels just super capitalistic. Like,
Oh yeah,
it doesn't feel like
corporate tone. It has a more corporate tone. I mean, like, I do think that, like, I'm not, it's not the answer to the question, but I do think that, like, Liga MX, which has that established history, but the price is much lower than an MLS team right now. It is going to be something that Americans are going to start moving into. It's just going to happen, and not just Liga MX. I think in Latin America as well. You saw the Necaxa group bought a club in Bogota. Like, this is going to happen. Argentina is now clearing the way for investment from outsiders. Well, Estudiantes is part owned by the Gillette, the younger Gillette that used to own Liverpool and the Canadians. So, yeah, it's all happening, man. I mean, I think that's the next frontier of American ownership. Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing is probably another question. But look at us, 3 more Americans who want to come ruin English football.
We're just going to have to band together and buy Mamelodi Sundowns, guys.
I'm down.
Another competition with plenty of history and pageantry in some ways is the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. And while it started a couple months back, this is the week where 16 MLS teams come into the tournament. And we want to talk a little bit about where does the Open Cup rank in the grand scheme of things. As Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, we see some pretty cool matchups. And guys, I got to say, for me, I'm definitely going to be paying attention this week because I think this is probably one of the most fun, unique weeks under the radar of the soccer calendar. And this is a week for the sickos because this is not one that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to, but all of the games being on, I believe a lot of them, is it Paramount Plus now that has most of the games?
Yep.
I believe Paramount Plus has them. You've got some really cool matchups this week. You've got Rhode Island FC hosting the New England Revolution. You've got St. Louis City hosting Union Omaha. Phoenix Rising hosting the Dynamo. Tacoma Defiance, the Seattle Sounders second division team, is hosting the Portland Timbers first division team. So for me, there's still a lot of excitement to this, and I think it's actually better in the earlier rounds than the later rounds. But Armand, where does the Open Cup rank for you in terms of kind of your soccer, I don't know, tier of excitement? Is it something that's really on your radar?
It used to be. I'll tell you that. It really used to be when I was younger, but now it's just and especially Daniel, I think all of us have a connection like with the Open Cup. I mean, because you and I, we worked. Well, I guess both we worked at the club Dallas, who takes the Open Cup super seriously. When they won it in 2016, it was a really cool club. It's named after the creator, Lamar Hunt. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to it, like, I just wish that U.S. soccer did a better job showcasing these atmospheres in some of these non-MLS leagues. Like, kind of like what we see with in Portland. Yes, I know you guys have seen me wear the Portland Hearts of Pine jersey quite a bit, but they have a cool atmosphere going on down there in Maine. I wish, like, for example, the one change that I've been clamoring for a long time is I wish that the lower division teams would host in this round.
Agree.
Versus having an MLS team where you're going to go see FC Dallas. I know throwing FC Dallas another straight. I apologize. It's just the first thing that popped in my mind. Versus AV Alta. I mean, that's going to have like 6,000 people there, maybe.
Way less, dude. Not even half of that.
Like,
not even half of that.
In a literal construction zone, or Austin versus El Paso in Austin. Like, I just wish we would showcase these more. Now, my excitement for it will be a lot more because I feel like we don't see those often, especially going to MLS team. You know, in Germany, that's what they do. Yep. The lower seeded team hosts. I just wish that we would see that within MLS because that's part of the allure. It's part of the beautifulness of this small tournament is these smaller atmospheres.
I am way more excited to watch those games that are hosted by the non-MLS team than I am for some of the MLS ones. Atmosphere is so crucial in a tournament like a cup tournament. I think that's kind of true anywhere you go. Even some of these countries where the cup is, well, I was going to say more historic, but I mean, the U.S. Open Cup legitimately more than 100 years of history. So I think overall, when you look at the Open Cup, I'm excited for it. I like it a lot. It's something where I've been to games. I went to games when I was a kid and always cared. And so, yeah, it's special to me. And I think a lot of people have those memories. But obviously, like any cup tournament, I do think it's better early. You know, El Farolito, our burrito boys, unfortunately eliminated. But like seeing one fan, was it with the Real Monarchs?
Yeah.
Just waving a flag. It got some friends in the next round, which was good. That's awesome. And that is American soccer. And we do need to build it. I actually think the U.S. soccer and some of the stakeholders have done some things in the last couple of years since the outrage. I'm fascinated, the outrage of people kind of saying, hey, this has been diminished. I'm fascinated to see how the tier thing works now that this year there's some teams who are playing an Open Cup, some teams have League Cup, some teams have. I think that that's going to end up being positive overall, because if your team is an Open Cup, I think you take it more seriously. This is our cup. So I think that overall, if they stick with this for several years, I think it'll be positive. But I'm fascinated to see kind of what the fan reaction is in some of those MLS markets where that's kind of all you got going for you this year.
I couldn't agree more, John, and I'm glad you mentioned that tiered system where the teams not in Leagues Cup are playing an Open Cup, because also if you're a team in Open Cup, if you're an MLS team, now knowing that you don't have to worry about Leagues Cup, I think it changes the lineups maybe that you put out this week, because outside of the league way of getting in, this is your only chance of getting in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And it is much, I would argue it's probably much easier to win the Open Cup than it is to win MLS
Dude, look
Cup.
at the teams that have done it. I mean, there's a reason that some of these teams, and they don't have success in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. If you win this and you don't have a good league season, you should probably spend some money if you're going to be in CCC. But like, it's a much easier path for some of the teams who have been in the last 3-4 years.
And for those listening, as you're getting ready, the non-MLS teams hosting MLS teams. On Tuesday night, you've got North Carolina FC hosting Charlotte. That should be a really fun one. And then you've got Colorado Springs Switchbacks hosting New York Red Bulls, which is probably
How did that happen?
That's the most random.
Yeah, that's
that whole
It's
group.
supposed to be regionalized.
The Paul Caligiuri group is the most
I
random
forgot
one.
they put the legends' names in there.
So here's a really cool thing about this that I'm just realizing. There are 4 teams from 4 time zones in that group. You've got the Red Bulls, you've got Dallas, you've got Colorado Springs, and you've got AV Alta. Whereas, how did that happen? I don't know. Anyways, and then you've got Louisville City hosting Minnesota United, Tampa Bay Rowdies hosting Orlando City, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds hosting NYCFC. That'll be a cool one, right on the river. Their stadium is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Tacoma Defiance hosting Portland. It'll be really interesting to see what players that the Sounders send down for that game, by the way.
I saw, speaking of Sounders and speaking of the groups being named, one of the groups is, as it should be, is named after Clint Dempsey. But someone made the observation he is not eligible to play in this tournament right now. If he wanted to unretire and play in the Open Cup, he's still got the suspension from tearing up the referee's notebook for Open Cup. That, I believe, I haven't looked super into it. I don't think that's probably going to happen. But Clint Dempsey, a group named after him in a competition he is currently suspended from.
So he couldn't join like Sasha Kleshta and the boys.
Right.
I mean, if they put him on the roster, then he could maybe serve the suspension.
They should do that.
And in like 5 years, he can play again.
That'd
I
be a
mean,
great
look, hey,
bit.
5 years do still be better than I'll ever be, but you know.
That would be a great bit if they just added him to the roster to get that suspension off the books. All right, guys, it is Liguilla time in Liga MX. The play-in, which takes way too long, is over.
Talk about a momentum killer, man. I mean, I get why it happened, but like,
it takes 2 weeks to play the play-in. That makes no sense to me. It was, as we know, it was probably because of CONCACAF Champions Cup and in some ways because of Pumas' participation. But Monterrey beat Pachuca on Sunday night to secure the last spot. And John, these matchups are bangers, man. I mean, it kind of worked out pretty well. Which matchup are you most looking forward to here, and how excited are you to get the Liguilla started?
Yeah, let's go. It has been a long wait as they've had the play-in and CONCACAF Champions Cup. I'm actually really excited for Tigres Necaxa for a couple reasons. One, after Toluca, who just scored goal after goal, they average almost 2.5 goals per game. After Toluca, Necaxa is actually the second highest scoring team in the league, and they're playing a Tigres squad that hasn't looked super solid, mostly in attack. But I think in the back as well, they have some issues. You know, Guido Pizarro's managing has come into question after the CONCACAF Champions Cup exit. It's a series where you look at it and usually you say, oh, well, Tigres are going to be Necaxa, pencil them in. But the moment that both teams find themselves in makes it that isn't necessarily the case. So I think that's the series I'm most excited for. But honestly, there's something to watch in all 4 of these series. You know, America being this all-conquering team trying to find their 4th straight championship. They're playing a Pachuca team that's been kind of their bogey team in the past. Luca playing a big team in Rayados. Raos thought they'd be way better than this season, but now Toluca just keeps scoring. But they were good last tournament, immediate playoff exit, so they've got to kind of find that revenge spot. The series I mentioned with Tigres and Necaxa, and then Cruz Azul taking on León. By the way, James Rodriguez is still there. We don't know yet, as of recording, what the Court of Arbitration for Sports said. But since that ruling came down, if that FIFA would kick León out of the tournament in March, I believe they've only won once. So that really kind of knocked them out, did something mentally to the team that they haven't been able to shake off. Maybe this 2 weeks off will allow them to actually focus on their soccer again, because they were playing really well before that break. But by the way, Cruz Azul hasn't lost in, is it 16 now? At least 15. They haven't lost since February. They're a absolute train on the tracks. So we'll see. I think all the series are going to be interesting. I've got a preview tomorrow on the newsletter as well, so check that out.
And Armand, you and I are Liga MX day trippers during the regular season, but we really lock in for the playoffs. And the thing I love about it is just the fever dream that it is for about 2 weeks, because it took 2 weeks to get this play-in tournament done, but then starting Wednesday, you've got 2 matches Wednesday, 2 matches Thursday, 2 matches Saturday, 2 matches Sunday. You get 16 games in a span of about 4 days that just wrap it all up. And then the next week, Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. It never stops.
It doesn't. And I mean, poor Toluca, I'd probably say. They've been dominant for those 2 half seasons. They've faced America last season.
They're going to put
America, who was great.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Who's fantastic. Then they're gonna play Monterrey, who's third in expected goals in Liga MX. That's gonna be really interesting to see.
We just saw a team win with no shots. I think Toluca is gonna be okay.
I think we need a bet
that last year too.
I think we need a bet here. The loser has to wear the Toluca jersey next week.
Hey, you gotta buy me one, fam. I don't got that in my closet, so.
Okay.
Loser buys a beer.
Like an excuse for another dumb jersey.
All right, loser buys a beer, though, at our next get-together. Loser buys the round of mezcal. Armand, you've got Monterrey.
To be fair, Sergio Canales, who had been injured because of the door incident that we talked about on the show. If you hadn't heard, you're like, what's the door incident? He kicked a door. And Oliver Torres came back from injury. Sergio Ramos, the other Spanish player they have on the roster, still not back. And they could use him because their defense looks really bad. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm taking Diablos Rojos.
But yeah, if you haven't watched Liguilla before, take some time. Wednesday night, Thursday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. All the games are 8 o'clock and 10 p.m. Central Time kickoffs. Take some time to watch those. You're going to enjoy it, and we'll be talking about it next week. Wrapping it up this week, Armand, on Friday night, you were out in Garland, Texas. Beautiful Garland, Texas.
Just like every Friday.
Just like every Friday. Garland Fridays for Armand. Tell us about what you saw on Garland Friday.
Garland Friday. Well, we saw a raucous crowd. We saw a lot of people there for the unveiling of a new USL team in Dallas, Atletico Dallas. They released their crest, which I wish we could. Is there a way you could put up the crest on the screen when we break this out? Because I don't know how to describe it in words outside of a rattlesnake and a wolf battling with a generic, as Peter said, generic crest. It was a really interesting experience to see the USL, a team that's 2 years away. They're not going to play until 2027. It's really jarring when you go on their countdown. It says 683 days left until their first kickoff. But it's really interesting because this is really the first, I'd probably say, big USL foray into an MLS market. Because
I don't know about that, but in Dallas, for
why
sure.
Are you gonna look? I mean, it's a direct. I would probably say it's a direct.
What about DC Power and the Washington Spirit?
Well, men's.
Okay.
Yeah, men's. But guys, it was really interesting because the whole reaction about the crest is so mixed, and the crest, which listeners, please Google it, has grown on me to the point where I hate it at first. I'm kind of like, I kind of like it now.
Well, your first reaction when you were there was negative, right?
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is this? But then you kind of saw it in action. You kind of saw what they could do with it. And I understand the critiques of it. Well, I did at least.
No, there was no players wearing the crest. That's what seeing it in action means.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it in action on merchandise too. I think that's I think the way I think you'd utilize it. I think there's alternate logos that are definitely
That's
utilized.
the thing is,
really
I think
good
like you
ways.
like the merch, and I think like the reaction has been like from soccer people has been pretty positive because it's different. I think we are all tired. If you're a soccer person and you see these teams, and to be fair, it's been a boom in the US of new teams, USL mostly spearheading this brand reveal. Hey, what's the video look like? Hey, what's the crest look like? Hey, what colors are they using? And I think it's so easy to see, oh, it's a Real blank, Atletico blank. I mean, the name is generic, but the logo is
Yeah.
not. The logo looks totally different. The video was totally different. What I would say, and look, like I hope it works. I hope it's successful. As someone who is from Fort Worth and lives in Dallas and has lived in Dallas for a while now, I didn't feel like it was something I could necessarily identify with. But maybe that's not the case for other people in the Metroplex. I hope it, like I said, I hope it works. I think like it got positive reaction because it's different and different. Hey, credit for trying something. For me personally, it didn't totally land, but they also have time to make it land, to make that story that they're trying to tell match my experience of living here. Pretty close to Garland, to be honest. I'm like looking off camera because I'm like, I think I can actually see Garland over there. So, no, I am I the target audience? Maybe, maybe not. That's fine, but yeah, I think it's different, and props to them for taking a shot. And look, props to them for taking a shot in this market, like you're saying. Like there is a team right up the road, so it is a little bit of a different proposition. I'd still put a team in Fort Worth, and if you
Well,
got big money, give me a call. We'll buy a team in England instead, but I would also put one in Fort Worth.
well, John, Peter on the show on Saturday on the Kick Run was saying that Donnie Nelson sold his ownership stake that he had for a
Yes.
team potentially in Fort Worth, and there are wheels in motion right now to put a USL team in Fort Worth, which I think this isn't the initial question, but the Metroplex is far big enough to have a USL team in Fort Worth, a USL team in East Dallas / Garland, and an MLS team in Dallas. And like we talked about with the Open Cup a minute ago, that would be a must attend event. We were all talking like, oh, we might go to the Open Cup game tomorrow. And realistically, none of us are going up to Frisco. If FC Dallas was playing an Open Cup game in freaking East Dallas or in Fort Worth, where they are the road team, I'm there every time. So to me, from that side, I'm super excited about it because, and also it finally puts a little pressure on FC Dallas because look, we've all been associated with the club for so long, but sometimes it does take a noisy neighbor in your backyard to get a little, hit up your backside as well to kind of push a little bit forward. And from a branding perspective, I love the look. I think that it looks like when people make kind of fake soccer teams only meant for merchandise, like Asbury Park FC or whatever. To me, it looks like that. But I'm with you, John, on the connection to Dallas. I don't really get it. I mean, I don't see what the
There's a lot of like, what was it, Glory from Dust? And it's like when as a Dallas, I think about Dust, I think of West Texas. I think of like, I mean, I went to Lubbock for college, so I
yeah.
got plenty of it out there. There's a brewery out there that calls themselves Dust Coast. Like that's what I think of. So you're gonna have to make this association land with the people that already. The difference for me between in this launch and the Dallas Trinity launch, the USL Super League, the women's team, is that I immediately identified with the Trinity. I said, yes, that's the city symbol, Pegasus. Some of my buddies from soccer, well, I don't really like this, man. I don't get it. The name. I say, oh, the Trinity, like the river.
Right.
I don't get it. Is it religious? No. But I know that from being from Dallas, and you might not from elsewhere. Whereas this one, I feel like has been the inverse. My buddies from outside in the soccer world who work in branding, who work in marketing, they're like, man, this is inventive. It is, but I don't see it and think Dallas. So look, I mean, different goals, and like I said, I think they have time to make those pieces work together, right?
You can't have that connection on the first, basically day one. But Armand, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was at that event, and one of the things I noticed from the stuff they put out on social was maybe local vendors and things like that. And that's something that I don't think FC Dallas, now they have limitations based on stadium deals and MLS deals, and so obviously saying that with all respect, but I think all of us have talked about before how FC Dallas doesn't do the best job of that sort of thing at their games. And, okay, there's a True Brand hat, but like outside of a True Brand hat, it's tough to see, too many connections to Dallas. Did you feel like there was an effort put in there at the event and that this could be a pretty interesting connection like to the community in that aspect?
Look, man, they're trying. They're genuinely trying. I mean, the I guess music festival that was going on there was predominantly I'd say Mexican music, quite a bit. there was a lot of Spanish speakers there. They translated what I think the creator Matt Valentine, his words. They translated that to Spanish. A lot of the vendors were like very, I would probably say, Spanish oriented as well too. There is definitely a push, and you can tell. I mean, the name is Atletico Dallas. It's not, that's also
Athletic.
a push in that regard. But when you look at what they're trying to do, it's kind of obvious. It seems like they're saying, "Hey, FC Dallas neglected this market," and which they did when they moved from that South Lake thing in '04, burned a lot of bridges, or '03, I think it was. Not a lot of people know. I guess outside of the FC Dallas circle, know about how that South Lake kind of really burned bridges with the Latino community quite a bit. But it looks like they're specifically targeting that demographic, of course, the East Dallas demographic as well too. What's going on in downtown Garland, which for those who don't know what downtown Garland is, it's a suburb very close. I mean, John lives in Dallas proper, and it's very close to Dallas. It's not necessarily Dallas. I'm curious to see if they'll if anything will change. If maybe they won't even play there.
Yeah, let's see
with the whole USL premiere that's coming up, and they need to hit the 15K stadium. So there's a lot going on. There's 2 years down the line, but it seems like they're trying to get involved in the grassroots level. Which I feel like if you ask that crowd who is there, is FC Dallas your favorite team or one of the teams you follow? I would say 95% would say no.
Wow.
I think 95% would have easily referenced. I saw a lot of Liga MX jerseys, etc. I think that's what we would get, like maybe a lot more America, a lot more Chivas, etc. Versus, hey, FC Dallas is my team. I maybe saw like 2 or 3 people in FC Dallas. Like
the Bronco was wearing FC Dallas, and they were trashing on them.
Yeah, which by the way, I kind of like, because it's like be a little bit of a noisy neighbor. Like,
when was the last time?
To do it though.
When was the last time, and I know there's some limitations here as well, but when was the last time FC Dallas hosted a Liga MX team in a friendly? I mean, it's been a long, long time in Frisco since they did that. And so if you are...
Well, they did show us at the Cod Bowl, which is good.
When was that?
2022?
Okay, so, it's not a regular thing. Maybe once in the last 3 or 4 years, if Atletico Dallas...
Those Liga MX teams will come here.
Yeah, if Atletico Dallas is hosting those games... I would go. So, very interesting to see, guys. And again, there's 2 years to go, but we will see. And that'll wrap it up for us this week on The Hex. Thanks for listening, y'all. We will catch you next week.